Yeah.
Yes, so this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, chapter 7 to 9 are the chapters in which Krishna actually instructs Uddhava on having a glorious departure, I mean, planning for a glorious departure. And that death is inevitable, is something which everyone has to face while the world is busy, trying to focus on making their living better. But our movement has been mainly focused on the glorious departures because that's a reality which everyone has to face. So Krishna is actually preparing Uddhav for a glorious departure, how he can be detached and how he can be prepared for the onward journey. So this is a verse from chapter, Canto 11, chapter 7, text number 35. It goes on till chapter 9. There is a big discussion which goes on. So I'll quickly go through this. And in these verses, Krishna talks about an Avdut Brahmin who learned lessons from 24 gurus and how he applied in his life to attain enlightenment. So starting with earth, wind, sky, to moon, and many other gurus he had, the lessons he learned from those gurus. So it begins like this: Prithvi, Vayur, Akasham, Apognis, Chandrama, Ravi, Kapoto, Jagara, Sindhu, Patango, Madhukrit, Gaja, Madhuha, Harino, Mina, Pingala, Kuraro, Ribaka, Kumari, Sarakrit, Sarpa, Urnanabi, Supesh, Sakrat. Etemi Guruva Ranjan, चतुर्विंशतिर आश्रितः शिक्षा वृत्तिभिर एतेषाम अन्वशिक्षम इहात्मनः. The translation goes as follows: O King, I have taken shelter of 24 gurus who are the following: the earth, air, sky, water, fire, moon, sun, pigeon, and python; the sea, moth, honeybee, elephant, honey thief, the deer, the fish, the prostitute, pingala, the kurara bird, and the child; the young girl, arrow maker, serpent, spider, and wasp. My dear king, by studying their activities, I have learned the science of the self. The wasp is known as Supeshakrit because it causes the insect that it kills to take a beautiful form in next life. So here we read Krishna is narrating this to Uddhava. This is a story of an Avdut Brahmin who comes across a king, and king inquires from Avdut Brahmin, you in spite of having nothing are so blissful, and I in spite of having everything is still struggling. So what's the secret sauce behind your success? And this is what the Avdut Brahmin shares: this is the secret sauce of my success, that I've learned 24 lessons from 24 gurus which are helping me, uh, which have helped me evolve in my life. So we won't go into details. We'll just cover the first six because this is a very vast subject. It takes at least 4 to 5 sessions. We'll just go through the first six. But the inspiration can help you dive deeper into the rest and see what we can learn from this. So, and at every step, I would request all of you to reflect, rethink, and make change commitments. Because bhakti is about commitments. Bhakti is about courage. Bhakti is about evolving upwards on day-to-day basis, so we get closer to our goal, which is to achieve the shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. So with this, we'll begin. Just recite the prayer for the ones who are new to this program. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So as I said, we will go through six. So these are the different lessons he learned, the Avdut Brahmin. So I won't go through all this. We'll only focus on the six. But what I wanted to share is, this is a sheet which I usually keep for myself and I share. I'll be happy to share this with others. It's a simple sheet where I write, which is the source of inspiration. Okay, the inspiration in case of Avdut Brahmin is air, sky, wind. There's so many other inspirations, earth, fire. You can write the source of inspiration and the commitment type, what we learn from that particular source. XYZ is my source, and this is a commitment I would like to make based on the inspiration we have. They say, right, 1% inspiration should lead to 99% perspiration. So we get a lot of inspiration in Krishna consciousness at every on day-to-day basis. But how are we leveraging on that inspiration to, so that that inspiration leads to perspiration? And that can only happen when we make commitment. And bhakti is a serious commitment where we make commitments to serve Krishna, serve Vaishnavas, and serve all living entities who are around us in a meaningful way. So here I'll stop sharing the screen so that we can make it more interactive and so as I said, so Sukdev Goswami, in this, in Shrimad Bhagavatam is talking about Krishna's conversation with Uddhava. So Krishna first explains to Uddhava how an intelligent person can observe the world around him and derive powerful lessons with the only purpose of elevating one's consciousness. And unfortunately, we see in the material world, people are deriving powerful lessons. In the name of education, people are learning different lessons. But unfortunately, instead of elevating their consciousness, they are actually trying to see how they can maximize their sense gratification by overpowering others. And that's also one type of sense gratification where one wants to showcase or make others realize that I am more powerful than you. And then we see the wars going on ongoing basis, whether it's Ukraine-Russia war or Iran-Israel war, which has recently been in the news. And this is not an elevated consciousness, it's only creating havoc for others who are not. So there are many who are getting directly affected, and there are many who are indirectly getting affected with the oil prices rising and many other things rising, inflation going beyond control. So this is unfortunately happening because of lack of elevated consciousness. So if we go further, in this, the first guru which Krishna talks about is the Mother Earth. And Krishna talks about, how Earth, how Avdut Brahman learned from Mother Earth, how Earth is sober. And Earth nurtures all forms of life. We see how Earth nurtures all form of life. It, provides care, support, nourishment, which is essential for the well-being of everyone, irrespective of who that person is. But what do people give Earth in return? The amount of tolerance Earth has is amazing. The wars which are taking place in different parts of the world, there is so much blood which goes on Mother Earth, right? The soldiers are getting wounded or the buildings are collapsing. The blood or the load is being taken by Mother Earth. Although on the physical platform, the mother, father of the person who leaves the body, who's injured or who's experiencing that pain is also experienced by the mother and father. But for overall, if we multiply in the number of incidents or the number of casualties, we'll realize the burden which Mother Earth is taking is phenomenal. Recently, I was in one of the leading oil and gas companies place very close to a place, Kakinada, where they drill oil. The amount of oil drilling which happens is massive, massive. The machines are some of the biggest machines I've ever seen in my life. The infrastructure which goes. And other way, the other day I was reading about Srila Prabhupada mentioned what kind of progress is this? To solve one problem, we are creating many other problems. Dog is moving on four legs, humans are moving on four wheels. Now to sustain that, they have to extract oil and that oil burns, that creates another havoc, the number of diseases which expand because of the pollution which is created by the oil. Well, now they're talking about EVs. Now the problem with EVs would be other problem, which is, how they discharge the batteries. Now for EVs, there are many more nuclear plants, power plants, which are coming across the globe. And those are going to lead to more and more diseases, the radiation will go up and a lot more. So for temporary gain, for a short-term gain, people are willing to, risk their life in the future, and the long-term impact nobody is talking about. So here Krishna is talking about long-term. He's talking about future. He's talking about futuristic, working with that mindset. So we see Earth nurtures. In spite of that, Earth remains sober. It tolerates, it tolerates, it tolerates. So Srila Prabhupada actually in Nectar of Instruction. So which verse goes with this? Anyone would like to take the lead when it comes to tolerance? or being sober, to be specific. Anyone would like to take? Anyone who has read Nectar of Instruction, the first verse in Nectar of Instruction, does anyone recollect?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes, I was thinking about that. It's the first word. Vacho Vegam, Manasakrodha Vegam,
Yes.
Jiva Vegam, Udarapastha Vegam.
Thank you so much, Sankri Kaur Mataji, for taking the lead. Yes, and in that verse we learn, right, a sober person is one who tolerates the urge to speak, that tolerates the urge to eat, and so many things we tolerate. And then that makes the person qualified. Vacho Vegam, Manasakrodha Vegam, urge of anger. So here we can make, I mean, in our day-to-day life, there sometimes we come across people who unawares. It's very difficult to tolerate them. And for our greater good, what happens is when we are not able to tolerate them, we are continuously thinking about their negative, uh, elements. Those negative elements play in our mind, and those affect us in big way. So to avoid that, what can we do? Can we make a commitment or list down a people taking source of inspiration from Earth, Mother Earth? List down people who um, are very difficult to tolerate, and see what best we can do to overcome our challenges rather than focusing on their shortcomings. So commitment, then I'll be more tolerant to this person, or more loving to this person. I remember when I moved into ashram in New Jersey, when I was living there way back in 1999. And earlier I was living with my relatives, and it was very difficult to practice Krishna consciousness. I mean, they would watch TV till 11:30 in the night, and have unpalatable conversations, worldly conversations. And when I moved into temple, they came to see how I am living in the temple. I had 6 by 4 feet space to sleep, and not only that space to sleep. I mean, even for my bags and luggage, that was the only space allocated. I had to manage in that space. So everything was in that 4 by 6 feet space in ISKCON Tobacco. So they came, well, they said, "Oh my God, you're living here. I mean, where you are living with us, you are more comfortable." And then they said, "Oh, you don't have a private bathroom for yourself. It's a public, it's a shared bathroom, so there's no privacy." And many other things. They kind of were condemning me. I mean, you seem to be stupid. So at times you have to tolerate. Now, if you justify, I mean, them, this is much better. You won't understand this, so they might get offended. Many a times, I mean, at times it's good not to counteract for a higher purpose. So I smiled. I didn't say much, and I kind of said I want to experience a life which is of a minimalist, rather than condemning them, saying them because of you I have moved here, because you guys sleep at 11:30. It doesn't go with my lifestyle. So for many a times, for higher purpose, we have to tolerate something. And when I was living in the temple, if I went by their, I mean, closer to their home, I would always ensure I carry some prasadam for them. And from our side, be as good as possible. I mean, tolerate some of, because their Prabhupada in one place says their reality is different, our reality is different. So because of the reality, they might not be able to understand. For them, what is unreal is real for us. Because for us, Krishna is real. For them, the material world and the enjoyments of the material world are real for them. That's their reality. So they won't be able to understand. So that's the number one thing. So if we make that commitment and be kind to others, that we'll be more tolerant to people. The way trees are tolerate, the way trees tolerate people, the way mountains tolerate people, Mother Earth tolerates people. In spite of all odds, she continues to serve them in a meaningful way. So that's the commitment. It depends, depending on your interaction with different people or challenges, you can accordingly make your own commitments. Then we come to the wind. The second guru, which Avdut Brahman mentioned, was the wind. How wind, and if there are wind, which, I mean, the wind has an external manifestation in the form of an air, and in an internal manifestation in form of prana. And if that prana is gone, we are gone. So the wind plays a big role in our life. So what we learn, when the wind blows through a beautiful forest, it carries the fragrance of the fruits. And at times, when it goes through I mean, it may act as a fuel when a fire burns the forest. It actually, because of the wind, the forest fire expands. However, when it comes to wind per se, by its own nature, wind remains neutral in both auspicious and inauspicious activities. It doesn't get affected. Similarly, in this material world, we'll be faced with both pleasing and disgusting situations. Now, it's up to us whether we get affected. Yes, it might touch us the way wind touches different elements. Those situations might touch us, but it's now up to us whether we want to get affected or not. And then we see in this world, in the world of disruption, we see many people are losing their jobs. Unlike earlier, the job security was there to a larger extent, whereby people could expect that if I have joined a particular company, and many a times in India, they would join one company that would be their first and last company. They'll retire from the same company. But gone are those days. Gone are those days. There is no job security. Whichever part of the world you go, even in public sector, it's becoming difficult for people. So forget about other things. So in a world where there are a lot of uncertainties, we will be coming across situations where we'll be provoked. Now it's up to us. I mean, the wind, how it doesn't get affected. So it's up to us how we take those situations. I mean, in my life, I experienced twice layoffs on two occasions. And on the first occasion, it was a lot easier because I was not married. I didn't have children that time. And the second occasion, it did affect me initially. And then one of the senior devotees said, maybe Krishna has a better plan for you. Or why you are so much attached to a job. And then I reworked and rethought, and things actually changed for me. Now, when I look back, I feel, now life is so better. I mean, I can live life on, I mean, at least, I mean, not on the terms of the bosses whom I was serving. So I can plan my schedule, I can take out. So of lately, I've decided that on Mondays, I mean, one day a week, I'll give completely to Krishna in addition to Sunday. Earlier, it was Sundays we would visit the temple. Now, I've taken out, I've decided even on Mondays I will give. So, I mean, it's 2 days like completely focused on Krishna consciousness. We won't do anything else on those 2 days. So that's how we can. I mean, it all depends how we take the situations. So here we can make a commitment that if I'm faced with XYZ situation, I'm going to be equipoised. And which is the verse which comes to you when it comes to equipoise? Would anyone like to take the lead? And there's a famous verse in Bhagavad Gita, which actually inspired His Holiness Niranjan Maharaj. That's his favorite verse. That's what I gathered from one of his lectures. And this is from chapter 2. And how Krishna stabilizes Arjuna. After Dehinosmin Yata Dehi, would anyone like to take the lead? Anyone who has read the Bhagavad Gita?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it's 2.14. Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. Would you like to recite the entire verse?
Yes, sure, Prabhuji. Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya. Shitoshna Sukha Dukkadaha. Agama Paino Nityas Tam Tat Tikshasva Bharata.
Yeah, so in this, Krishna says, right, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. So they arise from sense perception. O son of Bharata, don't be disturbed by them. Learn to tolerate them. So in our day-to-day job life, I mean, there are certain things we can expect. I mean, if we have been dealing with our boss or colleagues, we can expect, I mean, in a certain situation, this person is going to react in a certain way. Now, if we are in those cases, I mean, in the world of data and all, they talk about predictive analysis. So we do predictive, we are already prepared. Okay, this is, if I come across this on first instance, you will react. You will get disturbed. But I mean, if you are able to predict, then you can make a commitment, I'm not going to react. in a negative way. I won't take it to the negative spirit. I'll take it in a positive spirit, and I would try to have a dialogue with the person to and pray to Krishna and see what best I can do, rather than getting disturbed. And then that disturbance continues. It affects our spiritual life many a times. It continues in our head. So the first verse, when we realize I mean, how Krishna is explaining in terms of earth, we learn to be tolerant. And when we are tolerant, actually, then it's a lot easier to be equipoised. So the lesson from Guru number 1, which is earth, is importance of being tolerant. Lesson from Guru number 2 is actually being equipoised, how to be equipoised in our life. And that's something which is coming from the wind. So moving further, the Lord says, the third is the sky. What Avdut Brahman learns from the sky, how the soul pervades the entire material substance. And here it would be, do not get bewildered as the soul passes from boyhood to youth to old age. Similarly, person changes the body, goes from one body to another body. So one should not get bewildered. So when we are tolerant, when we are equipoised, then it's a lot easier that we don't get bewildered with certain changes taking place in our life. And they say change is something which is constant. We see, in the disruptive world, change is the only thing which is constant, with even the people who are not connected with Krishna consciousness are also indirectly talking about. So the third is that, won't get bewildered by certain changes which happened in our life. So if we see all go in actually sequence. Now, once we don't get bewildered, now here, we see, the mood could be of a different mood here. Prabhupada actually connects sky with, also it goes with Dehi nosmin yata dehi komaram yovanam zara. That's the verse in Bhagavad Gita. This goes very well with this. And actually, in that purpose, Srila Prabhupada writes, the Mayavadi theory of oneness with spirit soul cannot be entertained. Under all circumstances, it is admitted Lord Krishna is the supreme Lord, superior in position to living entity, and Arjuna is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya. And we have to establish, as responsible devotees, it's our duty to establish this so that people, don't continue to be lost in the material world. The way sky remains undivided and although accommodating all objects, never actually mixes with anything. At times, we have to mix with people who are not aligned to our thoughts. And we don't have choice. And I remember when I was working in Canada in one of the Canadian companies, I won't mix with people. I had created boundaries. Very hard boundaries. If they had any social gatherings or any gatherings or corporate gatherings, I would avoid them to the best possible, give a lot of excuses. And eventually I got labeled as antisocial in the company. I lost 2 promotions in spite of winning multiple awards for my work. So, after burning those fingers, I realized that even if I have to go for those parties, I have to create my boundaries in those parties. I can always say I follow an Ayurvedic Ayurvedic lifestyle or Sattvic lifestyle, so that they are forced to inquire what is this lifestyle about, and then probably inspire even one person or 2 people. But my mindset was like, since I lived in the ashram, I had become very much kind of creating those boundaries. No, 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 no. But many a times we cannot avoid, because if we do that, what will happen is, if they come to know that you're in Krishna consciousness, they'll label everybody who is in Krishna consciousness in that particular box, and which is not right. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, at times you are, it's more of follow the principle of Yukta Vairagya. You be in this world, at the same time you are not in this world, not affected, the way lotus is not affected. So this is something which we learn from the third guru, which is sky. Sky teaches us, how, you can make this happen. Now, if we go to the fourth guru, which is water, the Prabhupada, we learn that how water is transparent and pure. So similarly, a saintly person is just like a holy place which purifies anyone who comes in contact with that saintly person. So how we can be as transparent as possible. Many a time, most of the politics or most of the problems or the conflicts happen because people are not transparent. And they try to manipulate people, and they lose credibility because of that. There is trust deficit across the world. And then if we are as pure as the water, we can address those gaps. And many people will come to us, will look up to us in the time of their greatest need. We could be the light which they're looking for. And there is a nice verse in Bhagavad Gita which goes with this on being as inclusive as possible. Does anyone recollect? It's in chapter 5, text number 18. Would anyone like to take the lead?
I can read it, Prabhu.
Vidya
Vidya
Vinay Sampanni.
Vinay Sampanne Brahmane Gavihasani Sunicheva Sopakesha Pandita Samadarshana.
So here we learn, right, how the humble sage by virtue of true knowledge sees everyone with equal vision. A gentle Brahmana, cow, elephant, the dog, and the dog eater. So it makes us more inclusive. When we are not bewildered, we are more inclusive. We see every living entity as part and parcel of Krishna. So here a commitment which one can make is, every week I'll give prasadam at least once a week to few people at my workplace. And it makes a huge difference in people's lives. A simple act of giving prasad, and then you can give it under guise, today was my son's birthday. If actually you can start with an occasion. And then when people appreciate you, since everyone loved it, I do it every week because everyone loved what I had got last week. So I thought, I'll bring something else every week. And I think people in this world are something, almost everyone is the foodie. That's their weakest element. Why not use it to the fullest? Prabhupada used the ISKCON bullet, which is known as gulab jamun in the initial days. We can leverage on that, and then somehow or other the Krishna consciousness begins. And then the people inquire. I remember when I was working in Microsoft, one lady inquired. Her name was Fatima. We used to give prasad, especially to people who are known to me. So Sunday night we would get it from the temple. We would go to Sunday feast. At times, the Mahaprasad, if there was any left over, we try to get some of it. And next morning we would give it at our workplace. So to Pratima I would share, and a couple of other people I would share. And then once she asked me, why you wear this something on your neck which is so tightly. And then she inquired, I said, this is Tulsi, it helps in health. I mainly focused on the health element. And she said, I want to know more. There is more to it. And then I talked to her about spiritual. Today she is initiated. Disciple of His Holiness Jayapataka Swami, lives in Canada. She used to work with me in Microsoft. So we don't know what attracts people when those small actions can lead to big results. You start making multiple friends. They look up to you for decisions. Many a time people have challenges making decisions. And in the world which is becoming more and more impersonal, this small act of kindness makes a big difference. Out of love, if we do it. And then it attracts people towards us in a meaningful way, and use that attraction for attracting them towards Krishna, giving them Krishna, sharing Krishna with them. And then Srila Prabhupada emphasizes, right, Bharat Bhumi de Janma Hoilo Karo Paropkar. And honestly speaking, that Paropkar is our own upkar. When we bring more people to Krishna, Krishna becomes more pleased. So in reality, it's our own upkar. And then secondly, there is a study and research I was going through, a school of Bethel, in which they said, you retain 90% of what you learn when you share that with others. Earlier, people would share that messages, right? If you forward this to 10 people, good luck will come your way. So similar, it works that if we share what we learn in Krishna consciousness with 10 other people, that subconsciously becomes part of our life. We also start putting that in practice. And we are also uplifting others and pleasing Krishna. So it's a multiple benefit which comes our way. So that's what something which we learn from our fourth guru, which is water, pure, transparent. How senti people, how water. We see holy rivers. Externally, they might look contaminated, and that's something which many people are responsible by doing that. But in reality, the water of the Ganges continues to be pure. It purifies us. So similarly, the way we evolve in our journey, we'll be able to impact others if we learn the lessons from water of transparency, purity. And the fifth one, which we learn the fifth guru which is mentioned is the fire. We see, the fire is something which burns away all the wrong elements. At the same time, it has the power to burn away actually everything what comes its way. But in our case, are we able to burn away the negative elements which are in our lives? So Srila Prabhupada talks about the consciousness of saintly people is unshakable because they do not try to enjoy anything within the material world. Such naturally liberated sages accept foodstuffs that are offered to them by destiny, and if chance they happen to eat contaminated food, they are not affected. And recently, just few days ago, I remember my sister by mistake happened to eat some vada pav. That's her biggest attachment. Vada pav she ate, and then I think because of the summer season, there's a heat wave going on in most of the cities across India. So because of that heat wave, what happens is especially the potatoes which are mashed and mixed with masalas and all. Now, if they're kept for a longer duration of time, the tendency is that they might get spoiled. And if someone ends up eating that, then they're actually risking their life. Unfortunately, that one vada pav has led her to admission in hospital. She's diagnosed with typhoid. She might have to continue there for 5 to 6 more days. So many don't realize it's so important as devotees. In the previous verse, I talked about giving gulab jamuns to others, but that's for encouraging them to take up to Krishna consciousness. But once they come in, what's also important is how we regulate ourselves. Because if we keep eating gulab jamuns day in day and night, it might affect our material body, and then we might not be able to serve Krishna to the best possible extent. And Srila Prabhupada actually mentions that this can cause laziness and can cause unwanted desires in us if we don't control our tongue, if we don't burn the element of eating, having irregularities in eating. And if they can burn those irregularities with fire, the way fire burns. So I think, we will be able to evolve in our journey. What I do in my life is, the commitment which I made is, at least I've taken some step, but although I won't say that it's 100%, addressing the problem to the fullest. So what I do is I take 1 week off every week, just to focus on my health. I go to a place which is about 30 kilometers from here, Nisargopchar Ashram. I go in that ashram where they help you control your tongue, help you control your eating habits, help you regulate the amount of or the quantity of food we are eating. So that regulation helps. When I come back to Mumbai after 7 days, it continues for some day. Then again, I go back to the old habits of having irregularities in the eating habits. And I can tell you, our consciousness depends on, where we eat, what we eat, when we eat. All this matters. What time we eat, who is the person who's made that food, and what consciousness he's made that food. So if we are able to burn or restrict ourselves, burn that element or burn that desire within us, which at times our mind, we get carried away with the desires which we have. And if we are able to regulate that element, it can make a big difference in our journey, spiritual journey. So last is, the moon. What can we learn from the moon? Moon also teaches us. So in this, actually, we can, sorry, actually, I've missed. So there is a nice verse in Bhagavad Gita, Yukta har viharasya yukta, chetasya karmashu yukta, swapnavo bodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. He who is regulated in Krishna says, he who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So this helps, although, for Bhakti Thakur says that if our health is good, then we'll be able to perform our devotional life in a much better way. So if we are able to regulate our eating habits, it can make a huge, huge difference in our journey, in our practice of Krishna consciousness. So lastly, the moon, we'll cover, as I mentioned, we'll only cover 6 today. So the last, the moon, our material body undergoes, growth, dwindling, the 6 stages it goes through, which we read in the Inosmin Yatha in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita. beginning with birth, culminating in death, and all are properties of the body and do not affect the soul. So Prabhupada talks, just as the apparent waxing and the waning of the moon does not affect the moon itself, such changes are enforced by the imperceptible movements of time. So we should not get affected by these changes which are taking place. So the moon is something, moon doesn't get affected. It continues to do our duty. Waxing, waning, the moon continues if that waning, waxing is happening. The moon is not affected by it. So similarly, what I gathered from this is, is by studying the moon, what one lesson we can learn, one of the things which people shy away or they have the biggest fear is death. Even Yudhishthir Maharaj, we read, right, when Yudhishthir Maharaj is countered with Yaksha, when he is about to drink water from a water body. Initially, all the four Pandavas go. So Yudhishthir Maharaj is the last one. They go and to fetch water from a water body, and while they are fetching water from that water body, Yaksha is asking them questions, and the four brothers don't answer the questions. They are not bothered to answer those questions. Finally, Yudhishthir Maharaj, to find where his brothers are, he goes to the water body. And Yaksha asks him, one question, which is, what is the most astonishing thing which you find in this world? And Yudhishthira Maharaj says, the most astonishing thing in this world is that I see others dying. They think my death will never come. My time will never come. So they live with that kind of a mindset. And as I said in the beginning, that our movement is art of dying. How you prepare yourself so that you have a glorious departure. And we have some amazing examples of Bhishma Dev, who had a glorious departure in Kurukshetra. And he meditated and was completely focused on Krishna before departing from this world. And then in the recent times, we see Sant Tukaram, how he left the world, how he left. He had a glorious departure when he departed from this world. So the verse which goes here is Anta Kalecha Mam Eva Smaran Muktva Kalevaram. Yaprayati Samad Bhavam Yati Nasti Yatra Samshaya. Krishna says, whoever at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone at once, attains my nature of this, there is no doubt. Now, to get to that stage, they say Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple and complicated for the complicated. But to evolve or to focus on becoming simple itself is a challenging task, because we live in a complicated world. There are so many complexities around us that to embrace simplicity is also involves a lot of complexity because of so many conditionings which hold us back in being as simple as possible. And many a time there is a FOMO. The world talks about FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. So we feel we get in that FOMO trap. We see the most of the population is affected. I remember on one occasion there was an intern who was working in our company, and on one day, he came with a sad face in the organization, and he was reporting. It's part of my team, so I asked him, what's going on in your life? Why are you so sad? I hope all is well in the family. So he said, all is well in my family. But then I said, why you seem to be that upset? So he said, I was about to hit my mother. I was about to slap my mother this morning because she dropped my iPhone. So then I asked him, who bought you an iPhone? Because knowing interns don't make much. They make a basic stipend in the organizations they work in India. So within my heart, I knew he hasn't bought this phone with his own money. So he said, my mother and father gifted me iPhone on my birthday. So I had a smile on my face. He said, why are you smiling? I said, firstly, they got you an iPhone. Then I asked him, secondly, what is the need for iPhone in where you are at the moment, you are just a student. So he said, security. So I said, what kind of security? He said, I said, you don't have a data which is worth millions of dollars. What kind of security you need? And he had no answer. And in the end, the conclusion was that he was under the FOMO trap. My friends they'll look down upon me if I have a cheap phone. And because of that, I have bought and Srila Prabhupada, one of the principles which he teaches us, right, the four principles which he says, books are the basis, preaching is the essence, purity is the force, utility is the principle. Utility makes a use. Is this useful to me in my day-to-day life? If not, why to use it? Why to get affected by it? And most of the people in this world are suffering because of this FOMO trap. So here, one, we can actually make a commitment that I won't get affected in this FOMO trap, irrespective of what people around us are doing in the material world. Rather than focus on being minimalist, whatever is required to maintain the body. Continue with that. At the same time, be presentable in whichever best ways possible. Don't go overboard on it. And then accordingly, main focus should be to evolve in our journey of Krishna consciousness. Another commitment one can make is, think about one's death. What kind of death I want to have? If I want to have a glorious death, Anta Kalecha Mameva, if you can meditate on this verse every week, and then do the reverse engineering, then what am I doing to evolve in my journey? Am I going upwards or downwards? If you do that reflection every week to see whether you are progressing or you're going down, accordingly you can make those changes in your journey. Burijan Prabhu once I met him, I said, I want to make as much money as possible so I can retire early and full-time serve Krishna. So he said, what's the guarantee after making money you will survive? There is no guarantee at what time will you die, at what age will you die. So whatever has to be done now. So when I reflect back, I realize, my mother-in-law had a similar kind of a mindset that I'll work as hard as possible. And after retirement, that she had a whole lot of list of things. Of course, those were not had any spiritual element, but from a material perspective, she had this list. I'll go on a world tour, do this, do this, do this. As soon as she retired, within I think 2 months, she was diagnosed with cancer, and in about 4 to 5 years, she passed away. So if we learn those lessons and take it from spiritual perspective, that if we can, make a commitment every week, I'll think about or meditate on the words Santa Kalecha Mameva. And from that perspective, I'll reverse engineer to see, what best changes I can make so that, I'm preparing for the final exam of our life, which will decide our onward journey, which is most crucial. All the other exams which we are come across in this world, those exams will give us material success, fame, glory, or something else, which is anyways temporary. It's not going to go with us or give us money. But what comes or the outcome of the real exam is something which is of real benefit to us. That's the reality in this material world. So with this, I will open. Would request you, if you would like to share your comments or you have any questions, would be happy to take it to address it with in the best possible way, the best possible extent. Thank you so much.
Yes, Prabhu. I would like to just take a minute. If you're okay with that, I'll just explain some of the programs, what we do at ISKCON Bergen. Might be
Sure.
helpful to some of the devotees here. And then while they are assembling their questions, I request that you can either post on the chat or raise your hand so that we can orderly take the questions. Give me 1 second. Let me just share my screen for the programs we do at ISKCON Bergen. Can see my screen probably. So at ISKCON Bergen, we have so like this program, Wednesday Sangha happens on this same Zoom for every Wednesday, almost 4 to 5 years before with COVID, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. EST. So you're more than welcome to join it on every Wednesday. And in-person program on Sunday happens at New Jersey, Paramus area. So if you are visiting here in this area, you're more than welcome. The address is listed in the bottom of the website here. Our website is iskonofbergen.org. So you're more than welcome to join us in person. We also have Fridays Bhakti Bridge program at various places around in New Jersey, in-person program. So if you like to join or visiting temporarily, send the contact here and one of us will connect you with one of those programs. And also during the weekdays, we have Bhagavad Gita reading from 12 to 12:15 every day on working days on the same Zoom. And in the morning, we are doing daily japa, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. EST. So like to request those who want to participate, join the morning japa session. Anywhere in the world, you can join it as long as your time is suitable. And we have ISKCON calendar that provides us the details of the Ekadasi, various other events we shall organize at our center here, and other programs are all also listed here. You can follow up here. With that, I'll go back to the questions. Anybody has any questions? I don't see the raised hands.
Yeah, I can see one question. It says if you could speak a little about how much important it is for being steady in Krishna consciousness, one's sadhana, one's dealing with devotees and service. If a question comes up, so I think this is this has got multiple questions in it. So first we can talk about the first one, which is sadhana. One's sadhana is very crucial to be steady in Krishna consciousness. Now to do that sadhana, I mean, what helps in big way is seva. If we do some seva, whichever seva that could be, and one of the verses which comes in my mind is in Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a verse, Etadad Janma Safalyam Dehi Namya Deishu Prane Rarter Diya Vacha Shreya Acharanam Sada. It's a moral duty of every human being that he offers some seva in whichever form, either through one's life, wealth, words, or through one's intelligence. So whichever way is possible, practically, if you are able to take out even 15-20 minutes for seva, either remotely or personally, there are multiple ways to serve. If we are open-minded, then we can leverage on that and take out that 15-20 minutes time of seva that will give us good amount of benefit, which will help in our sadhana. And seva, in addition to seva, satsang is very crucial. Are we associating with people? Many a times when we meet devotees and we end up, talking about all the possible things in the world. I did this, I made this, I cooked this. Instead of that sangha which is there, or that satsang which is there, are we talking about Krishna and that sangha? Are we exchanging notes on, how you are progressing? What are you doing? What can I learn from you? And then vice versa. So seva, satsang, and then sadachar comes, and then with that sadhana becomes a lot easier because we need inspiration from each other. Individually, we cannot inspire ourselves. That inspiration can come from the community which we are part of. So if we have these exchanges, if we have these conversations which are centered around this, it can help us in big way. And then seva also, if we are able to do, depending if it's practically possible, that if we are collectively able to do. Like when we go for DT worship, then we have like 8-10, it's a unit of 8-10 devotees with 6-7 devotees. In India, that's how it works. We are 6-7 of us who go in the altar. So that becomes a unit, and we are like closely bound with each other. So we have a smile on each other's face, and then we are working as a unit for a greater good, to present the Lord in a way that it attracts many people, so they come more often to take darshan and that's the motto we work with. So seva, sadhana, sadachara. And when it comes to dealing with devotees, it's very important to see the positive in them. There is a material book which is of Harvey Mackay, 66 things you should know about a customer. But leverage on that for devotees, pick up the elements from those 66 things. I want to know more about devotees. Because what happens is, if when we don't know more about devotees, we form perceptions many a times. So we don't realize why a particular person behaves in a particular way. There could be a particular reason why a person is behaving in a particular way and not able to behave the way you want him to behave. So when we are kind upon him, when we see the positive in him, that makes a big difference in our building relations with that particular person. There are struggles which every individual has. Every one of us have different kinds of struggles. And we have to see how we can help. There could be one area where you are good, then you are not good at some other area. And then vice versa, for some other person, he's good at some other particular area. So looking for the positives and we see how Srila Prabhupada looked for the positive. Even there was a drunkard who came once on 26 Deccan Avenue. with a toilet paper in hand to keep the toilet paper in the toilet, which was in 26 second habit. And Srila Prabhupada appreciated him wholeheartedly, saw the positive in him. He didn't see the negative element. Oh, he's a bloody drunkard. How can he come to the temple if he's not clean internally, externally? So those things, I mean, there could be giving that unconditional love and accepting him the way he is can make a big difference. Now, think from other perspective. Now, if you are at the time of death, we just talked about Antakale Chamameva. Now, at that point of time, if that devotee is the only devotee who happens to be close to you or living close to you or in your neighborhood, and he happens to be next to your bedside, so who would you prefer in that particular situation? A non-devotee who will talk about, oh, don't worry, everything will be all right. But a devotee who is preparing you for a glorious departure, he is chanting for you. So if we think from that perspective, we'll have our dealings, and the dealings which we'll have with other devotees will be more meaningful and more substantial, more growth oriented, spiritually growth oriented. And then in that spirit, if we do seva, because many a times what happens is, service is absolute, but many a time we see, I want this particular seva, because we feel this seva is superior to other seva. The other seva which involves cleaning toilets, who's bloody going to watch you? You're cleaning toilets. I want to be in the limelight. I want to be in somewhere where, people glorify me. Oh, wow, you have dressed. Nobody comes and tells you, wow, someone whose, the toilets were clean to the best possible extent. But many people talk, wow, Krishna looks so beautiful. Who has done the dressing? So if we look from that perspective, we are hungry for that glory. This is from the service aspect. It might, fan our ego in the short term, but in the long run, it could be detrimental for our spiritual progress. And that one attachment, that particular, wrong element could come between us and Krishna, because Krishna is watching us at every moment. Krishna knows everything what's going on in our mind, knows us in and out. So I think there is another one, which is the one, would you all like to, okay, that's, I think, for the audience.
Ramchandra Prabhu, you want to speak something?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dhanvat Pranama Krishna Prabhupada. So, Prabhu, you mentioned about, you gave your example about when you were a student and when you were working. And this question comes up many times that when at work, how do we balance? How do we say no? How do we, remain Krishna conscious and yet, join the meetings and have lunch with colleagues and this and that. So that many times these questions do come up. So you also mentioned about having your boundaries, that there's certain things that you don't cross, but at the same time, you need to mingle because you're a working person. And also for children, for students, it's peer pressure usually that makes them do things that ideally they would not do if they were not in school. So can you speak a little bit more about this? And you yourself have a growing up son, and how do you train so that they can be well balanced outside and in Krishna conscious circle?
Yes, so the peer pressures are always, social pressure is always going to affect us. At some point, we said, as I mentioned, the story of a young boy who joined us as an intern and got entrapped in that FOMO trap. But nowadays, compared to earlier when I was a student, in those days, nobody talked about health as much as people talk about health now. Nobody talked about, multiple things. Disruption and multiple things. So I think leveraging on the current trends, The person can, if you are able to logically, present your this thing, present yours, not in a, if we present it leveraging on Krishna consciousness, or in Krishna consciousness, we are not supposed to do this, don't, then people won't take it up to Krishna consciousness. Others will look down, and they might condemn us, oh my God, bhakti is impractical. One should never go into all this. Not many realize the moment you start chanting, you automatically lose taste for some of these things. It naturally comes. It's not forced upon us. When we tell people we don't eat onion garlic, they think as if it's been forced upon us by ISKCON, and that's not a reality. None of these things have been forced upon us. It naturally comes. When we start chanting, we start losing taste for all of these elements. So one is to focus on chanting. Another is to being smart. If we see Narad Muni, when he's dealing with Prachini Barishad, he doesn't he doesn't confront him in a straightforward way. Prachini Barishad, what kind of life are you living? You are completely engrossed in sense gratification. You are a materialist. But he presents a story of a Puranjan, which is an allegorical story. And leveraging on that allegorical story, he convinces or gets his points across to Prachini Barishad. And Prachini Barishad realizes. So similarly, we don't have to be too straightforward. Even Chanakya Pandit says straight trees are cut first. So here that cutting will happen. They'll cut you off in terms of your relationship will get cut. You will have barriers between. At the same time, you have to realize, we have to be compassionate towards them. At the end of the day, they're part and parcel of Krishna. So the best and for being that compassion, we first need to be tolerant. Then we need to don't get bewildered by what they're doing. So some of these things which we discussed today, and be more inclusive in whichever ways we can, and logically explain to them. Now the recently COVID had happened. We see COVID, many people got affected, and you can always say, after COVID, I've been as far as my diet is concerned, I'm very stringent about my diet. I follow a sattvic way of living, and I want to continue with that. What if we have entered the era of biological war? We are seeing wars taking all over. Different countries are going into a war, and the next wave is going to be biological war. From that perspective, I want to ensure that I live a healthy life, so that if something of that sort happens, it doesn't affect me. So here, externally, you are trying to be bodily conscious, but internally, you know that you are not attached to the body. At the same time, they are bodily conscious. Most of the population is. And they will be able to relate to this, and they would actually might ask you, okay, what diet you follow, what time you sleep, and they would like to emulate that. And from us perspective, if they're going for late night parties, I remember when I used to go to college, they would start at 9 p.m. in the night. We used to have classes from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. in New Jersey Institute of Technology. And after 9, not many would go home. They would have chit chat, gossip, and all kinds of stuff. And now there, if you have to go back, you cannot say, oh, I have to wake up at 4 a.m., I have to chant my rounds, I have to do my morning, I have morning program day. There you can say, early to bed, early to rise makes a person healthy and wise. I want to continue with that practice. So it depends on us how, smartly we handle them in a meaningful way, with a smile, with a compassion. And at the same time, when we are kind, regularly giving them prasadam and all, they will start becoming kind and start becoming more sensitive to us, and they will be more inclusive with us, and they would be more inclined to what you are doing, to learn more about you, more receptive, I would say. But straight away, if we go from day one from philosophy to counter them, it's going to only backfire. And that used to be the tendency, which I, kind of had earlier. And it took a good amount of effort to rework on this.
Thank you, Prabhu. I've known Mahaprakash Prabhu from when he was in the ashram. And one thing I can say is his steadiness in Krishna consciousness, that even after so many years and having academically done very well in corporate world, and he's very close to Radhanath Maharaj also, but his dealings and his body language and when he speaks, it's same as 25 years ago. And so, Prabhu, I was thinking maybe in the coming weeks, we can have the remaining of gurus also covered, if when time permits.
Sure, be more than happy to serve Prabhuji, whichever ways I can.
Yeah.
And I think we can, at the next one, we can begin with, I mean, the commitments some of you made, and how are you trying to live by those commitments? Because Krishna consciousness is a serious commitment, but serious in the sense, not serious from external perspective. It's only going to make us more and more happier. Because this is where we will find real happiness, provided we make those commitments. And then that's only going to help us further and further in our journey. And that commitment is something which is eternally beneficial. The returns are eternal compared to the returns we get into the investments people make into systematic investment plans and the other so-called plans. So I hope that works well with everyone. I would be happy to share that sheet with a hope that it helps you evolve in your journey, so that you can help others evolve in their journey or help them begin their journey in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, so maybe you can post the sheet on the chat. I can take the copy, send it to those who need it.
I think I tried. I think there's no option of sharing in the chat. I can send you by email if that works well.
Sure, yeah, sure. I think I have your number. I'll reach you.
Sure. So I'll share that via email.
Okay. So anybody interested, they can connect with me. Any other questions here? Prabhuji, you're okay with the questions, right? You have time?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to also thank Ramchandra Prabhu. I'm humbled by your kind words. I mean, I still have a long way to go, all I can say, to be more steady in Krishna consciousness.
Mhm. Okay. Looks like there's no new questions here. It's a beautiful topic. We covered it pretty nicely. And there's 24 gurus, so there we still have 18 more. So probably we can have a couple of more sessions sometime. So we'll work on it and schedule it sometime as per time allows. And
So adding to, sorry, actually, Ramchandra, you mentioned, right, how we build the barrier. So one of the things I do with the non-devotees, especially, to build relations or make them favorable. One of the weakness which every individual has in this world is appreciation. People love to be appreciated, and unfortunately, people rarely anyone appreciates anyone else. So if we dive deeper into every individual's journey, what they're doing, and bring out those good points, what we like about them, rather than focusing on, this guy is a hardcore non-vegetarian, hardcore this party animal, and all kinds of labels which many times people have. Instead of identifying those good in others, and if we start appreciating them in front of others, then they'll become the best friends one can ever think of. Because what happens is, in a subtle way, the bullying continues. We usually like to laugh on others' shortcomings. We like to bring out those shortcomings in public. Oh, he's like this. He doesn't know this. He won't be able to do this. So most of the people are used to that kind of environment. But now here someone comes who's very different than others, and he's actually appreciating that individual. Oh, I like this point in him. So when one does that more often, and that becomes part of our habit, the other person becomes very receptive. Like the other day, the Thane temple, we go every Monday. So in Seva, we had some breaks. So I was talking to one person, and his name was Yogeshwar. So I mean, I appreciated, wow, that's such a beautiful name. It's a Krishna is Yogeshwar. We worship Krishna. So he was saying, my father, named all my other siblings are also named. Our names are connected with Krishna. I only was a whole next 15 minutes were only appreciating his father. Well, we need more people like him who appreciates, so naturally you remember Krishna. So he said, my sister's name is Madhvi. So now, he said, I'll come next Monday when I'll also try to bring other family members with me. So that one act of appreciation like opens the door, opens a much bigger door.
That's a wonderful technique, Prabhu, and can make this beautiful relations around and definitely imbibe the positivity around us. Thank you. That's a good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Looks like Prabhu, there's no new questions at this time. And I think we can adjourn the call.
Sure.
So I'll request the devotees, they can unmute themselves and thank Prabhuji by one Mahamantra. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare Ram,
Ram
Ram
Hare
Hare Ram,
Ram,
Ram
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Hare
Ram Hare Hare.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you so much. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Well,
Krishna.
thank you.
Hare
Happy to
Krishna.
learn. Hema Mataji, you are also from Thane. If you have any relatives, would be happy to, can invite them. We'll be happy to give them Mahaprasad and garlands of the Lord.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. I'll
Hare
take your
Krishna.
number from Gopal Prabhuji and I'll reach out to you.
Sure, that would be great. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Hare Krishna. Vaishnavi.